think a lot of people say, well, my kids are my why, and my why is my family and all that stuff. And those are all part of it, obviously, but it's not it for me. To me, it's been a journey of discovery for over 27 years, 30 years. And it comes to a few stories, but the combination of a lot of stories. One is I'm not a religious person. My mother was a nun. I grew up Lutheran, went to Catholic schools, believe in all sorts of things. But I think there are certain really beautiful lessons that come from, scripture in the Bible. And, having gone to Catholic schools, you tend to study those things, and you study them in the context of business sometimes, which is really fascinating. And I spent two and a half years studying the concept of work and leisure, right? Work is, what we do in the world. And leisure, I used to think was, having a beer with your friends and playing, but it's not. When you learn what the true definition of leisure, it's contemplation and reflection. And it was said once that contemplation and reflection is the highest form of prayer. Look at, in the story of creation, at the end of each day, what did God do? He asked himself, did I do good today? And it's contemplation. If he did well, if he answered was yes, he rested well. And so contemplation is a big part of it. The reflection. My son calls me a philosopher, and my people that know me close call me a philosopher because I'm always thinking, what does this mean? Challenging my thoughts, challenging a question. And the philosophical component, I think, is critical because it's all about contemplation and reflection. What am I doing? How's my impact on people? How is this impacting myself, my family? What does this really mean? What's the definition of this? What does it mean to be a Republican? What does it mean to be a Democrat? What does it mean to be in the middle? What does it mean? Is this what God would want? Is this what Jesus would want? Is this, what Buddha would want? Who knows? What if he was here? What would he do? Those questions are endless. And so I look at one of the most impactful stories to me was the story of the talents. And whether it happened or not, I think it's cool. It did show up in all four Gospels. God comes down and gives somebody one talent, one person 3 talents, another person 5. Comes back later, asks the person who gave 5, what'd you do with those 5? And Jim Rohn was kind of the one that introduced me to this concept. He said, the person with 5 said, I turned him into 10. He said, great job. Person did 3, what'd you do? I said, well, I turned him into 6. Hey, awesome. Person did 1, what'd you do? He said, I buried it, did nothing with it. And it was said in certain terms that God lost his cool. It's one of the times he was most angry. I gave you a gift and you did nothing with it. And so to me, that kind of resonated with me at an early age, saying, okay, so God's giving me gifts. I'm going to put that in the list. And I got to do something with it. The question is what? Okay, well, there's another study I learned from Jack Canfield on near-death experiences. And studied 2,700 people that saw the light and everything, and they asked them questions, and they all reported very similar responses. One is seeing a light. These are people that died and came back, right? And medically died and came back to life. They all saw the light. And the second is that they were approached by somebody. But the cool part is they were asked 2 questions. And the first question was, did you gain knowledge? Okay, that's kind of cool. Second question was, did you expand your capacity to love? Okay. I have wrestled with those 2 questions for the 20 plus years that I learned it. And I can almost answer anything. Even what you and I talked about before we went live, sort of the trials and tribulations of life can be answered in those. Are you learning something? Did you gain knowledge? And in the trials and tribulations, have you expanded your capacity to love? It's easy to love when times are good. Can you love when things aren't working out? And I thought, how beautiful of a filter. Gaining knowledge and expanding my capacity to love. So here I go. I've got skills. I've got a talent. I'm going to figure out what those talents are. Somebody gave them to me. And I got to go out and learn as much as I can and expand my capacity to love under the most difficult times. Why? Well, maybe it's to further in the creation that he was trying to do. Did I do good today? Well, maybe my job is to utilize my skill sets to gain knowledge, expand my capacity to love, and further in his creation. That's why I do what I do. I don't mean to cry, but it's very important to me.